Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks you all for joining us for our breakout session on Next Gen TIM, Technology for Saving Lives, our EDC-7 initiative. We're going to explain to you today what it's all about. But before I do that, there are some instructions here that I hope you can read. Basically none of this is required by law as a federal government. We don't endorse any products that we'll be talking about today. But this presentation is created by both Federal Highway and external organizations. So don't hold us to anything, basically. Today we'll be joined with my Federal Highway partners and some external partners that Jim will introduce. But in a minute, you'll hear from my partner, Jim Ostrich, and then we'll be hearing from Joe Thibault, our other partner or team member here at Federal Highway Traffic Incident Management Team. We're the co-leads of this initiative. So, just to give you a little background, the slide says where we have been. And this is where we have been just for EDC, just for Everyday Counts. So we were an Everyday Counts 2 initiative that focused on the training. We were an Everyday 4 initiative that advanced data to improve TIM. We made some big progress with both of those initiatives. And EDC 5 and 6, we were actually a part of the crowdsourcing for advancing operations. Many of you know that crowdsourcing can give you actually earlier notification than from other sources. So we were a part of that team. In 2021, we were an EDC 6 initiative, Next Gen TIM, we called it, training, data, and technology for local TIM. And here we are today. We were lucky, one of the 7 initiatives that were allowed to continue. One of only 2 that were allowed to continue, but we're on one of 7 overall EDC-7 initiatives, Next Gen TIM, Technology for Saving Lives. And we'll explain what that's all about as we go forward. So a little background. So in our EDC 6, we wanted to expand TIM to local roads. It's always been about all roads, but we wanted to make that clear in EDC 6. So arterials and rural, and TIM is for all roads, and we really pushed that along. By the way, we had 40 states participating. We emphasize, as many of you know, the responder training that we keep pushing along is a core part of our program. We made advances and we pushed along some technology transfer for using TIM data and how to use TIM data. A lot of good discussion came out of that, including some real cool dashboards. And then the last one for EDC 6 was some technology, and the technologies were UAS for TIM, integrated computer-aided dispatch. What else was? Oh, digital alerts. And what was the other one? Oh, video sharing. That was so well received that we thought that we would continue with EDC 6. So we're still going to be working through EDC 6, and we want to move on to EDC 7, but just focus on technology. And of course, we all want to save lives, right? So it was the overwhelming interest in EDC 6 and technology that prompted us to go in this direction. There's a lot of new technologies that are out there that we'll be talking, only a few of which we'll be talking about today. And then, TIM affects us, each and every one of us, every day. And then, what we're talking about today, the saving lives piece, is the link with our National Roadway Safety Strategy. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit. So what we're pushing for technologies for saving lives is advanced warning technologies. There's debris removal systems that are out there that we think would benefit everybody. Those that are trying to remove debris that's bouncing around on the highway, very dangerous situation for all. Some emergency vehicle lighting and markings. There's some smart technology out there that we think is going to help with safety. Emergency vehicle preemption has actually been out there for quite some time, but we think there's some new technology out there, and we also feel that those that aren't using it really should think about maybe making that when we're talking about post-crash care. And then, of course, UAS for Tim is an important feature that we want to make sure we continue. And, UAS for Tim, a lot of folks are using it for crash reconstruction UAS, and that's great. That is such a huge benefit. But we also think there's other uses for Tim that some folks are using UAS already, both tethered and free UAS. So, I mentioned that we want to make that connection to the National Roadway Safety Strategy, which is the US DOT strategy. We're very fortunate we have a place in that. We have a place in the safe system approach and post-crash care. So when you hear us talking about EMS, we're talking about a lot of that post-crash care. What can we do to enhance that golden hour when it's so critical to get a patient to the hospital? That's why we're mentioning EMS. So the National Roadway Safety Strategy, these are actually 2 action items that our TIM team needs to have actions on and formally report on to the Office of the Secretary. Develop and implement an outreach plan for EMS personnel on scene and safety and traffic incident management training, and then advanced traffic incident management training and technologies targeted at improved responder motorist safety. So that's our piece of this National Roadway Safety Strategy that everyone in US DOT is focused on. We're quite proud that we made that connection with this Everyday Counts initiative. So, and we have a poll question for you. So how would you describe the use of emergency vehicle preemption in your area? And we just want you to type in the chat pod your answer, if you don't mind. Wait a minute.
So I think we'll do 2 polls at this time. We also have a question in the chat pod that we'll go ahead and do.
Okay. So this was activated sooner than we wanted, right?
Yeah. No worries.
No worries, yeah. So what was the question, Katie?
So the question we have in the chat pod is, what ideas or suggestions do you have for better engaging the EMS community in TIM activities? Again, bringing it back to that EMS focus.
Yeah, so many people that are on, and some that may not be familiar. There's TIM committees throughout the country. There's probably, I don't know, I'm guessing somewhere between 120 and 200 committees. We find out every day that we don't know them all. But how often is that EMS engaged? How often is really that coordination with EMS? What can we do to help your response? And so that's what we're trying to find out. So those questions in there would be very much appreciated. And we'll wait a second, and we see your answer there to poll number 1. Fully deployed, 13%. Have deployed EVP and plan to expand the deployment, 16%. Have piloted EVP but do not deploy. Only plan to deploy, only 5%. Not using EVP but interested, 21%. Okay, not interested in this time. And then unknown, 45%. That's all right. You wouldn't be expected. Many of you wouldn't be expected to know that. But okay. So I think we're good to move on here, right? And I think my colleague, Jim Ostrich, will take it from here. Yeah.
Okay. Can somebody take this poll down? I guess I can do it, huh?
I just clicked on it, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. So again, good afternoon, everyone. To echo Paul's remarks, thank you so much for joining us. We're very much interested in you being part of EDC-7 technology for saving lives. As Paul said, we had 40 states join us for EDC-6 over the past 2 years. So let's see if we can break that record and get all 50 states. How about that? So anyway, Paul touched on these technologies that we're pursuing through EDC-7. He mentioned the fact that unmanned aerial systems for TIM is one that was part of EDC-6 and very popular and becoming more widely used across the country, not only for crash reconstruction purposes, but for other activities within law enforcement as well as DOT. Debris removal systems as well, because of the dangers and fatalities that safety service patrols and other DOT maintenance, as well as law enforcement and responders have suffered over the years going out there on a nation's interstate or other roadway to remove some type of debris and being struck and killed, if not seriously injured. Lightings and markings, smart lighting, as Paul mentioned as well. Advanced warning for crashes, Q warning, and the like is also gain some attention in tracking. And of course, EVP that we just had the poll question on as well. Whether it's a corridor that's wired from a police station or a fire station to access an interstate highway for emergency response. And of course, the EMS post-crash care that Paul mentioned too under the National Roadway Safety Strategy. Next slide. So today we have three very distinguished and great champions and leaders in traffic incident management, dare I say. Many of you know Owen Hassan from the state of Missouri will cover debris removal systems. Sal Cohen from the state of New Jersey will cover advanced warning, and Grady Carrick, retired law enforcement trooper from Florida State Police, will cover unmanned aerial systems for TIM. So with that, Owen.
Thank you. I'll be presenting a little bit on the debris removal systems. And, one thing that we've learned through the years is a lot of technology has advanced strictly from incidents that have happened within our own organization. We've usually developed these inside from our own sheds or safety service patrols that things have been affected by. And debris removal systems actually kind of focuses on at least two key factors of the NUG when we talk about responder safety and safe, quick clearance. That's two of the factors that these debris removal systems fall into. And as I mentioned, usually these things happen from instances that have happened inside our organization. Next. Unfortunately, in Missouri, within the last 20 years, we've lost three responders just in our safety service patrol. Clifton Scott, he was age 50 years old. Ken Hoyerman, he was 38, and Julie Love at 51. And if you see their years of service, these are not new employees. These are seasoned employees who are used to working on the roadway, just especially nowadays when we have such the hiring pool that we have with inside our agencies. And we needed to focus on something that really protected our employees a little bit better. I mean, usually when things like this happen, when these tragedies happen, we change operations, which is what we've done. Many states have done that when these things happen. But what kind of technology can we put in place for saving lives? And I think that's where this whole Everyday Counts 7 aspect looks at it, for technology saving lives. What can we do? And we started looking at these aspects of it. Next. So debris is one of the huge issues that we run across, at least on our interstates here in Missouri. And it's a, excuse me, it's a true hazard from unsecured loads that are happening on the roadway. We have tons of spillage that happens all the time. How do we get this debris out of the road? Many times you're seeing law enforcement officers jumping out there trying to grab it off of there. If an urban area is lucky enough, they'll have their safety service patrol going out and trying to remove the debris from the roadway, or maintenance folks grabbing it. And we tout this inside our safety service patrols. And I pulled some others. Some of these are from Missouri, some are from other states. There's some shots of it. And when I started looking through this, I'm like, boy, times do need to change. And we discovered that in Missouri, times do need to change. We are helping save people's lives from hitting this debris, but how much of a risk or an exposure are our employees subjecting themselves to? How can we keep our boots off the ground? And that's something that our folks started looking at inside our safety service patrol operations. It's one of the most dangerous and at-risk tasks an emergency responders can encounter, is jumping out of their vehicle. Now they're no longer strapped inside their vehicle. They're no longer protected or giving that advanced warning from behind there. Many times they're behind the vehicle, exposing themselves to live traffic, or in an adjacent lane, exposing themselves to live traffic and hoping that the motorists will do the right thing. And as we all know, motorists are unpredictable. You never know when it's coming out there. We have blind spots from the A-pillars. You may not be able to see an approaching vehicle thinking that you have a clear spot out there. So how can we protect these at-risk behaviors and hopefully shield our employees in a better manner for doing that? And debris is a huge call out that we get inside the state of Missouri. We've received over 6,000 debris calls just in the urban areas, and I'm sure they're all over the highways throughout the nation, from the tire treads to the mufflers to the mattresses, the ladder counts. You'll hear these things being reported a lot of times on the radio. People will talk about how many ladders they've pulled this year or something like that from your FM stations. They'll kind of talk and joke about it, but they don't realize the dangers and at-risk behaviors that some of our responders have to put themselves to. And that's a lot of exposure. Boy, when you have that much debris on the roadway and our employees or from safety service patrol to any of the responders going out there pulling this debris off the roadway, that's a lot of exposure out there. And how can we protect them better? And that's one thing that, excuse me, that's one thing that our area started looking at. Next. So concurrently, we tried to reduce the risk inside Missouri. So concurrently in Kansas City and St. Louis, they both knew they were working on different areas, but they were working on how to reduce that exposure, and they were going to engineer a way out of that exposure. They wanted to reduce that risk, and to engineer their way out of that exposure, they started talking to their employees and to their general service folks and seeing how they could do it, also using all the experience that they had on hand from their employees and from the maintenance staff. and maintenance backgrounds that they've worked on. And they both came up with mechanical applications for debris removal. So instead of changing when I say mechanical, that's, actually using a vehicle or something like that, some other type of mechanics other than changing our operations. Many times, as I mentioned, we might change operations. Hey, bring out more equipment, put out more cones, channelizers, things like that, close more lanes on there. But how much more does that really add to that quick clearance or that protecting our responders or safety service patrol people on the roadway? So they started coming up with these ideas on how to engineer it. What can we do to our trucks or what have you to come up with a new way of getting debris off the roadway without getting boots on the ground. And when they put together these debris removal systems, excuse me, they in the Kansas City area, they came up with the JAWS area, with the JAWS machine, Julie's automated waste removal system, and that increases the responders' safety. It greatly reduced the need for the operators to be outside the truck and improve the traffic control to be used on the roadway. And that was named after Julie Love. The JAWS system was named after Julie Love, who I showed earlier, one of the 3 responders that killed. She was killed on I-435 on the 6-lane interstate in the Kansas City region, removing debris on the roadway. And the JAWS system drops down from the vehicle. It's operated from inside the cab, and we'll go into that in just a minute. But the JAWS system operates from inside the cab. It lowers the mouth of the JAWS on the roadway, slides down the road, and it can pick up a lot of debris, a lot of the smaller debris. If you start thinking about things like mufflers or sometimes tire tread or gators, as you might call them, it may be able to pick some of that stuff up. Larger debris, the JAWS can maneuver and push that off to the side of the road, just relocate it off the side of the roadway. But it's a great system where you can pick it up from center lane, pick it up, have total control of it, and then totally remove it out of the driving lane and have that removed off the roadway. And then the operation of it, next slide, please, is really similar to a plow operation inside some of our larger trucks. It's joystick control. There's an electronic switch inside the cab to activate the JAWS. So you push it down, the JAWS system goes down, a micro switch clicks on and indicates the light saying, hey, the JAWS unit has been deployed, so you know whether or not it's secure in the up position or it's going in the down position. It has a forward-facing camera, and that's installed in the rear view mirror. It kind of shows a smaller section of the rear view mirror to see the debris that you're approaching. You do need to slow down to approach it. Usually in the 20 to 30 mile an hour range is the best control. If you're going a little slower, you can even get better control of the debris and slide it up into the back of into the JAWS mouth. And then that camera also helps you ensure that the debris is being pushed off the roadway. Some of the newer JAWS units have an actual separate monitor on it. Think of like an iPhone, or about twice the size of an iPhone, mounted inside the cab, so you can actually see the debris in that screenshot. And it's a floating unit, means there's no downward pressure onto it, so it floats over the ground. You shouldn't have to worry about any of the expansion joints, things like that. If people have ever driven a plow truck and hit an expansion joint and come to that abrupt stop or broken something, it slides right over the top of those. As far as, to the best of my knowledge, we haven't had any hang-ups on expansion joints or anything like that with our JAWS units out there. And then in the St. Louis region, they came out with the Strategic Waste Intercept Protocol for Emergency Response. That's a mouthful, but we call it the SWIPER. And yeah, it was named by an engineer in the St. Louis region that came up with that name, but it works out very well for the SWIPER area. It's similar to an underbody plow. If you're familiar with some of the underbody plows, where it comes up underneath the vehicle, but it's in front of the drive wheels on there. It's a lighter system than the JAWS unit, and the lighter system does mean quite a bit when you're starting to look at your fleet and you decide what kind of gross vehicle weight you need to put on those front axles. So that's something to discuss about. We can talk about that in the open office later on if anybody has any questions on it. And that helps relocate basic debris to the shoulder for safer areas. Next slide, please. They're both good units. They both have pluses, positive aspects of it, advantages, and they both have some limitations too. As I mentioned, the JAWS unit's a little heavier than the Swiper unit, which can add to the gross vehicle weight. It does extend the nose of the vehicle, so you have a longer vehicle onto that JAWS unit than you do on the Swiper unit. But they both accomplish the same goal from relocating debris off the roadway, out of the driving lanes, and onto the shoulder, and most significantly, they help save responders, our SSP folks, or limit their exposure to live traffic by keeping them off the ground, keeping their boots off the ground. They're both in use right now throughout the state of Missouri. We have a few more JAWS units, I think, in place right now in the state of Missouri, but we have both JAWS and Swiper units being used throughout the urban and some of the rural areas. The rural responders haven't used them as much as they do in the urban areas, just because of the amount of debris that gets spilled out in the urban areas. And when I say the urban areas, I'm talking about the St. Louis, the Kansas City, and the Springfield, Missouri sections of Missouri. Both advantage, both do great jobs, and they both have different aspects though. Some do better for, like, the Swiper might be a little bit better on glass spills or nails, things like that, cleaning out a couple of drains. If you have a lot of that drains that get clogged during winter, the JAWS unit have a little bit more control over the aspect of it, can pick debris off the road and then relocate the debris off the road on it, but they both save lives, and great technology for the EDC-7 goals that we're looking for. Next slide. And that just kind of brings it to the conclusion of it. So we will have more answers if anyone has any questions in the open office onto it. And from there, I think I've hit my time frame, and I will pass, or maybe even gone a little bit beyond. I'll pass it on to New Jersey to Sal Cowan, I should say, talking about advanced warning.
Thanks, Owen. Great job. And, we were thinking about JAWS, and Owen and I were talking before the presentation actually started about, those kinds of technology. And, when you talk about the people that you lose on the roadway, you really do want to try and figure out any new technology, whether it's something that is innovative and new, and whether it's in the computer realm or something as, engineered as the JAWS device or the other devices that are out there on the market. So as Owen mentioned, my name is Sal Cowan. I'm the Senior Director of Mobility here at the New Jersey Department of Transportation. I'm here today to talk to you about advanced warning, but I really do have to start by giving a huge kudos to FHWA and the folks from the Office of Operations, Jim Ostrich, Paul Jode, and Joe Tebow, continuing to have Tim in the Everyday Counts conversation. I've been a part of these since the Sharp 2 L12 days. And then when Tim was in the Everyday Counts round 2 in 2013, each time these Tim conversations take place in Everyday Counts, it gives us a chance to learn what else is happening across the country. That and the Talking Tim webinars, it really helps everyone to expand their program capabilities. But what we want to talk to you today about is a little bit of technology and some of the things we're doing here in New Jersey. Next slide. So some of the programs that we've initiated, we have a real-time stop queue and a slowdown notification specifically to commercial drivers. New Jersey is a very commercial trucking heavy state. We do have the New Jersey Turnpike, as well as the world's busiest crossing, the George Washington Bridge. Heard that one. We are also using LED flares at incident scenes. Some of the environmental conversations that are taking place about burning off flares and the expendable material, whereas you can use these LED flares. Another piece that we're doing, we have light towers. We've mentioned time and again about our incident management team and our iMERT trucks. Sometimes they're on the scenes of larger incidents that are at night. and therefore we require additional lighting for scene safety. So that's just some of the things we're doing. Next slide. So in terms of our real-time stop queue notifications, as well as our slowdown notifications, New Jersey is a member of the Eastern Transportation Coalition here on the East Coast. And we are also benefiting from their transportation data marketplace. One of the things that we purchased, this is not a solicitation to buy nor an offer to sell, but one of the things that we did was we recognized that one of the key groups that we really want to reach out to are commercial vehicle operators. They're coming from every direction. We've got Pennsylvania and Delaware to our west. We've got New York and New York City to our north and to our east. We have the ocean to our furthest east, so no one's coming from there. But we want to make sure that for people that are driving into our state, that they can get the most up-to-date and actual information into the cab. We can provide DMS messaging, 511, press releases, Twitter feeds, but for the driver who's sitting there, we want them to get it. So we partnered and purchased the DriveWise platform. They are the way station system provider for pre-clear, as well as INRIX, who provides the real-time information to various agencies, a lot of the color coding maps, travel times you'll see on websites. Next slide. So these are the agencies involved. It's the state partners, right? Combination of all three of us, the department, the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, and SJTA, a total of just shy of 650 centerline miles. Next slide. And what's going to the driver? Well, we don't want to give them one more thing to pick up. We certainly don't want to have them pick up a phone. So we're providing them with information into their ELD. So combining the data that comes from INRIX and sending it out through the DriveWise platform, we can let these truckers know that there's a sudden slowdown ahead. This is basically a deviation between historical and current speed. We can also let them know about congestion that's about to occur and let them prepare to slow down. Next slide. So it's the INRIX traffic intelligence that really helps move this along. So the network that they have through their system is the underlying data set. It detects these closures, these queues, these slowdowns, and then it pushes it out. So this information comes in every 60 seconds, and it pretty much tells you what's a bad one, what's a good one. So this dangerous or sudden slowdown, those are the ones that catch you off guard. That's where you see the skid marks on the pavement. That's where you see them running off into the grass. That's where you see the struck guide rail. These are the, oh my goodness, and they have to harshly react. The more information we can get to them quicker in advance of that, the better. Next slide. So some of the things we're also getting, we're getting a dashboard. We want to know, does the system work? And how many times are we telling people? We have seen a significant number of activations of both the slowdowns and the congestion. Of course, the heaviest roadway is the New Jersey Turnpike. It is the commercial through roadway. It's I-95 through the majority of the state, connecting to, as I said, the George Washington Bridge, and up into New York, the Cross Bronx, the New England Thruway, and up in 95 Connecticut all the way up. Next slide. So that was for the notifications. We want to make sure our people are testing it. We want to compare it to what our TMCs are doing. But we also want to start looking at long-term activity. We want to see what other data points we can provide. TAMS is our transportation asset management system. We can see exactly what signage we also want to send out. We're going to be looking at what we can send to commercial drivers in terms of left lane driving, which is something that is a concern here in New Jersey. Next slide. And next topic. So one of the things we're also doing is we're using LED flares. We don't have a preference. We use multiple types of LED flares. These are just some of the ones that we've used in various scenarios, whether it's our safety service patrol, our incident management team, and the like. Next slide. So some of the things that we're looking at when it comes to, buying a carton of the strike flares. For those of you that have ever responded on the roadway, you've probably thought twice about when you're going to kick that out, right? You think to yourself, what's the big skid on the bottom of my shoe going to look like? Am I going to track that into my truck? It limits your exposure. There's no heat. There's no smoke. There's no sparks. There's no flames. There's no burning chemicals. That's something to think about when you've got a significant number of flares out, especially at night. You want to have higher visibility. And when you think about it, you use a strike flare, it's done. You kick it over, you got the wire, that's it. This you can use over and over again. Next slide. And another part is you can charge them. It's easy to charge them. Some of them have a sequence of patterns where you can have them go along a certain pattern. and different kinds of patterns. And they're durable too. They've either got a heavy wooden rubber base, or they can pack. A lot of them that you saw in the earlier slide, they're in a bag and they're tucked away. Next slide. So when we go on these big scenes, we want to make sure the truckers know exactly what's happening. So we send alerts to them. We've used other systems too. We've used icon systems for alerting people to where our SSP vehicles were. We're using Haas for pilot technology to let them know also where our SSP vehicles are. But when we're out there, we want to be seen. And so there are circumstances where our incident management team is brought out to the unfortunate incidents, the investigations, the criminal investigations where law enforcement has to have heavy lighting to be able to look for evidence. So we made the determination to install light towers onto our incident management response trucks. Next slide. So it helps. It certainly increases the visibility of our team to the motorists driving by. When you are driving in those dusk to dawn or overnight scenarios, you got to be cognizant of who can see you. A vest and a cone help. A big light tower illuminating a scene is like a construction scene. You see more, and you see more in advance as well. If you're working in areas that might not have highway lighting, long stretches of rural roadways, those are the areas where you get these fatal crashes, these off-the-road crashes where you need your responders to be seen. And as I mentioned, it supports the investigative activity, ballistics evidence. They want to get that evidence to either prove or disprove criminality in any kind of crash investigation. You don't have to worry about towing it. It's attached to the truck. There are places where you have light towers where we've dragged them from yards and brought them in. It gives you an additional 10 to 15 feet above the vehicle hood, and it runs off the vehicle power. It's not portable. You don't have to worry about getting some guy to go out there and refill it every couple of hours. So what should you do? You should always give advance warning. You want to get as many signs out, but it's not just the signs, right? It's the technology that's out there that you can get that information to them too. And always be mindful of roadway geometry. You need to alert the motorists any way you can, whether it's signs, messages, message boards. If you work with these crowdsourcing applications, whether it's Waze or Haas or anybody like that, get your message out to as many people that can get it as possible, and light your scene. Make sure your people are seen, because it really is up to you to make sure they go home every day. I really do want to say thank you to everybody. I think that's my last slide, right, Katie? If we didn't have the support from our commissioner, Diane Gutierrez-Scacchetti, and my assistant commissioner, Andrew Chenard, we would not have had this successful program. Our federal highway partners in New Jersey, the division office, Robert Clark, Valeria Remizova, Amy Kaminsky, and Ake Pomsavoth, without the feds, our program would not be where it is today, as well as our state police partners, our towing partners, EMS, fire. They do a great job. And it's not without our partners, we can't be successful. Please work with all your partners, recognize everyone has a part to play. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to our next presenter, Grady Carrick from Enforcement Engineering, to talk to us about UAS for TIM. Grady, the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, Sal. Boy, Sal and the folks in New Jersey are doing some great things with technology, as are the folks in Missouri with Owen. I want to continue this technology conversation by talking about UAS a little bit. UAS stands for Unmanned Aerial Systems or Unmanned Aircraft Systems. Those are kind of used interchangeably. Most people know them as drones, but small UAS are really catching on in a lot of transportation and public safety agencies and really other partners that we have in TIM. So as Paul mentioned earlier, they were one of the technologies that was highlighted in EDC-6 Next Gen TIM, and again, one that was probably the most in demand from our participating states. So one that we want to continue for EDC-7. So the first thing that we talk about when we talk about TIM and UAS is crash mapping, and they've really proven their value and their worth with respect to that. As you can see, there are some examples of the time savings. An NIJ study found that they're an hour faster than Total Station. In North Carolina, they staged a crash scene at the police academy and found that they were faster than 3D laser mapping. And actual field use, Purdue University and Tippecanoe Sheriff's Office in Indiana found that they saved 60% on scene time. And in Washington State, 125 different deployments found that they saved 80% of roadway clearance time. So they're a game changer, and they'll continue to be a vital part of crash mapping as it relates to reducing that TIM timeline. But what we want to do with EDC-7 is we want to explore some other uses for UAS. And I think that discussion really starts with one of the things that a lot of folks are talking about right now, and that is tethered UAS or tethered drones. And we're all familiar with the concept of a remote pilot operating the controls and sending the UAS up and it flying and capturing information and images. But with a tethered application, it's connected to a ground unit. It's connected to a base station on the ground that provides it with power and communication. And the idea is it goes up about 150 feet and it flies there by itself and can continuously send those pictures and images to folks that are on the ground, our responders on the ground, or it can send them to a remote location like a TMC or a manager at a remote location. You know, we have these notification systems where our managers like to get text updates on what's going on in the scene. And with these kind of solutions, they can actually get images, live images from the scene. So again, I think tethered is one of those ones that's getting a lot of traction for us as we talk about TIM applications, because it has some of those advantages of being easy to use and not having limitations as far as its flight time goes. There are some cases where tethered UAS can be flown by someone without a remote pilot license, but those are pretty narrow, and we'll talk more about those, I think, as we go forward with Next Gen TIM and EDC-7. So going to the next slide, and we'll talk about situational awareness. That's another application for UAS. Again, this would be either tethered or piloted UAS, getting something up above our scene or near our scene and helping us understand what is going on with that approaching traffic. Owen mentioned how dangerous and unpredictable those drivers can be that are approaching our scene. So having UAS up there gives us that bird's eye view of those vehicles that are approaching and what they're doing, how they're behaving, how effective our traffic control is working, and really helps us again to know what changes we might need to make. Do we need to establish diversion routes or redeploy temporary traffic control or get something else upstream that provides better advanced warning? Queue detection. While we're up there, we're going to look at queues and see how far they go back. We're going to mine those queues because, again, we know that that's where those secondary crashes oftentimes will happen at the back of a queue, and how important it is we warn people that there's something up ahead. If we have a good situational awareness and monitoring of those queues, we can identify if we need to create a diversion route or help our other responding units to get to our scene and provide assistance to us. So the queue monitoring and the ability to see those queues is certainly a big benefit. We can also see the other things upstream too. Do we have people making U-turns or backing up on the shoulder to avoid our incident, or doing other dangerous driving behaviors that maybe we need to send somebody back there, a responder or law enforcement, to mitigate some of those potential safety hazards. If we do create those detours that I just mentioned, monitoring them is a really important part of that. Just forcing them off of interstate and letting the locals fend for themselves is really not what we want to do. So we got a little example here from North Carolina where they had to take people off the interstate and put them on an arterial. They were able to put up their tethered UAS and monitor the situation and make changes down on that ramp and arterial location. So, and again, in this case, the UAS filled a gap because they didn't have ITS cameras in this particular area. So big bonus. So monitoring detours and how traffic is behaving is another big TIM application. Disaster response it really speaks to evacuations and the way that traffic is impacted when things happen. All those different things that are listed there are situations that certainly can create dangerous situations for motorists. And as part of the traffic operations strategy to get people evacuated or get them away from harm associated with these disasters, UAS can play a big role in that. After the fact, we can also use the UAS to go and see how the roadway looks and is it suitable to reopen, or can we get people to re-enter the areas that maybe they did evacuate. We've also been told of other applications that are kind of related, and that is situational things like rock slides and migration of animals and infrastructure damage and other situations where a UAS can, again, play a very important TIM and operational role. This next use case is with training. TIM training has been something that's been on our mind for a decade now. We've done a great job nationally. And there are places around the country that are using UAS images from actual scenes to enhance their training program. And in this case, in Puerto Rico, they actually, when they do their staged TIM exercises as part of their training in the parking lot, they put the UAS up and take some video, and then they bring it back in the classroom and extend that hands-on learning experience for the students. So again, the training applications are something that also can be very beneficial. We also use that in after-action reviews. So just touching the tip of the iceberg with the potential for UAS in these applications. Some of the other uses are listed here. Planned special events are, they're planned, so they're not TIM incidents, but we know a lot of times we have vehicle breakdowns and crashes and things related to special events. So TIM can help us, help us to mitigate dangers and hazards for our responders and help us to respond to things when they do happen. Towing and Recovery has told us they've been using UAS to survey off-the-road incidents where they might have a complicated recovery and helps them to get the right equipment in there. And then safety analysis. Again, Captain Hangy from Tippecanoe told us about a work zone application last month and how the UAS helped them identify and mitigate some hazards associated with a hazardous work zone location in his area. All right. UAS is a great tool, and I think that wraps up what I have to say about it today. I think it's really exciting to have it continue for EDC-7, and looking forward to hearing a lot of new ideas and innovative uses for UAS as it relates to TIM and helping us reduce the TIM timeline and be safer out there on the roadway. So I think I'm going to kick it over now to Joe and let him tell us more. Actually, we're going to Jim.
We're going to go to Jim real quick, and then we'll go to Jim.
There we go. Let's go to Jim. There we go. Sorry about that, Jim.
That's all right, Grady. Excellent job, and kudos again to Sal from New Jersey and Owen in Missouri. So continuing the conversation today, one of our innovations is part of EDC-7 technology for saving lives we mentioned earlier, but need of mentioning again is the use of emergency lighting and markings. Smarter use of lighting, where there's been a lot of research and a lot of ongoing work in this area, but we want to take it on and work with states to further or expand the use of the lighting. Over the years, there's been a lot of issues with the brightness, especially at night, obviously, and patterns, so on and so forth. But we've recently learned through the state of Illinois, Illinois State Police, that they've been using and testing emergency lighting. And I believe this one here, well, the source shows it right here. This is Colorado. I believe there's snowplow operations, and you can see how the lighting is synchronized. And I don't have to read the bullet points to the left here, but self-explanatory. Next slide. Next, again, touching again on EVP, or emergency vehicle preemption. Started really many years ago as TSP, traffic signal preemption, still in use in certain areas, jurisdictions, municipalities around the country. But again, a technology that we are adopting for EDC-7, and as I mentioned earlier, in particular for fire rescue EMS response, being able to access interstates more quickly, along a corridor. One thing I did not mention earlier, but Paul talked to the fact that it's not just interstates. You heard me say interstates just now, to access interstates. But traffic incident management, crashes and other traffic incidents occur on all the nation's roadways, urban, rural, remote, and of course, state highways, interstates. So this is an area that we're interested in, and thank you for your participation in the earlier poll. Next slide. Here's another one. Are we going to do a poll, Katie, or is that?
Well, we already did that one, so we'll do it after this slide, the last poll question.
Okay. And again, revisiting TIM technologies for emergency medical services to support post-crash care through that national roadway strategy that's been mentioned now a few times. Very important. And overall, our goal is to help EMS get patients more quickly during that golden hour, as was mentioned earlier as well. And really all the components of traffic incident management for quick clearance and whatnot, but in particular for EMS. Katie, next slide, please. Now we have another poll question. Which of the following next-gen TIM technologies do you think your state would be most interested in adopting? Okay. Very, very good. Thank you all for quick response and participation. There is, well, okay. Looks like unmanned aerial systems along with advanced warning technologies are in the 45% or above. And then we've got debris removal, lighting. Very good. Even emergency vehicle preemption. And of course, the EMS support, post-crash care. Okay, we'll give another second and then we'll end this poll. Yes, answer to the question of Doug Noble, our friend and partner, and who participated in Everyday Count 6. Doug is an executive with the Institute for Transportation Engineers. Doug, thanks for the question. The answer is yes. Okay, those are the final numbers there. let's move on, Katie. So I guess I could clear that. So as I just said, Doug Noble was part of our EDC-6 Next Gen TIM initiative that just ended this past December. But we definitely will be, excuse me, we will be working again with a similar cadre of professionals from throughout the country who are subject matter experts, users, innovators, champions and leaders, if you will, for all things TIM, and certainly focusing again on the technologies, UAS, debris removal, everything we've discussed here today. We're going to seek out a few new members for the national team for EDC-7, and that team will work hard to support your states, all the states that hopefully all 50 states. We told you we had 40 states for EDC-6, but we're very much interested and hoping and praying that we can get all 50 states, DC and Puerto Rico. Why not? So do your part, talk to your stakeholders, and get on board with Everyday Count 7 Next Gen TIM, technology for saving lives. Next slide. And with that, I'll turn it over to our colleague, Joe Tebow.
Thank you, Jim. Greetings, everybody. I am the third leg of the kitchen stool here with Jim Ostrich and Paul Joden. And like Jim mentioned earlier, Paul, we've a lot of states out there doing really great work with traffic incident management, and we greatly appreciate that work, and so do all the other responders out there, state DOTs, disciplines from law enforcement, all of the disciplines out there practicing this, because they know as well as we do that traffic incident management saves lives every single day. And remember, when we're talking these new TIM technologies here, EDC-7 and EDC-6 was such a success and such an educational experience when you get the opportunity to associate with and work with 40 states that are just doing some remarkable stuff out there, and this is technology that's proven yet underutilized, right? And there are folks out there proving it, beneficial every single day. So, when we take a look at everything that's being offered here, that we're addressing in EDC-7, it's something for everybody, right? I mean, it's without doubt, whether you're already into it. Like UAS, there was no surprise to me that would have been the number one, right, in the last poll. But if you're already there, and you're making your way through the process, then hey, we're continuing on with EDC-7, and carry on, come along with us, because we'll surely learn something new without a doubt. And there's something here for everyone, right? So please consider it, and we're here to help you along your way. We look for when states are adopt and become a player in EDC, we have to measure that success, as you would too. Excuse me. So we look at the progression, and at least one technology in one stage, right, by the end of the two-year EDC cycle. So that would put us till December 24. So states can choose to select more than one, right, and many have. However, if there's just one that you want to tackle, that's perfectly fine too. When we track this, we kind of adjusted our tracking just a little bit, if you would, and simplified it, right? And we talk about, that category that's going to be the top priority if you have a couple of different ones. The one that you're most likely to advance in is going to be used and as the baseline and goal implementation process in the stages. So, I think that makes it a little easier, or quite frankly, a lot easier than having to, progress multiple at one time. We know things just don't work like that. So join us and understand, right, that you can just pick one, right, and if you need to sell that, right, make a business case for it, we can help do that too. And how we do it, right, and it's the initiative resources that we offer to support you through everything that's listed here, and we've had some absolutely amazing webinars and peer exchanges and workshops I find myself just sitting there and taking notes and writing stuff down, because the folks that are participating are doing so many fantastic things. The on-site technical assistance, we can certainly provide that in whatever hurdles or challenges that you're facing. Training materials, absolutely. Training, for sure. You get in touch with us and we'll get you going on that. And of course we produce, the case studies and fact sheets, and marketing materials for you. So, the EDC-7 that's just wrapped up, those TIM fact sheets are now on the Federal Highway's website. There's the web address there. Those are a lot of the things, that came out of EDC-7, and as a matter of fact, it could be used as, a lessons learned kind of sheet, and maybe even as a compass as you're steering forward on whatever the innovation is that you choose to participate in. And there are funding opportunities now. EDC-7, doesn't participate. If you're participating in EDC-7, that's not, going to provide you any funding opportunities per se, right? But there is the stick fund, right? Every state, and, you get up to $100,000, and you can be creative with that. Some folks have, split it up amongst different, what they see as priorities within the state. And then others have just given the whole $100,000 for a TIM initiative. So, contact your state stick for folks, or visit the website there at Federal Highway. Pardon me again. That'll give you some direction and pretty much the guardrails that you have to kind of stay between in order to move. And then there's the AID, the Accelerated Innovation Demonstration, and that's up to $1 million per year. To deploy an innovation that's not routinely used, right? So we're right there in that arena. It takes a little more to go through this process versus the stick, but nonetheless, it's there. If nothing else, visit it and see if you can take advantage of it, or partner up, maybe even with others in the state that are looking to take advantage of it. Well, with EDC-7, yeah, we have a booth, and we'll have some office hours and some more discussion on some of these technologies listed here. This just a little bit. We'll have office hours where we'll be available to discuss anything that we've talked about here today, or something else that's on your mind from the TIM and EDC standpoint, and through Thursday, tomorrow we'll have advanced warning technologies and great demonstrations by North Carolina and Indiana, or discussions, I should say. And then, of course, Thursday, we're going to be doing post-crash care roundtable. And once again, we have some great speakers there. Dia Gaynor and Charles Blankenship are going to open up the mic and discuss some EMS stuff and what we can do to assist the EMS community. And then once again, we'll have office hours where we can address any questions or just general discussion. So with that, questions and answers.
Joe, if you don't mind, I have a couple of follow-up things.
Absolutely, Paul, take it away.
Those office hours that we are on this afternoon. Apparently, there was an issue with the link, so the new link is in the chat pod there. In case you guys want to join us at 3:45, we'd love to hear from you. And I just wanted to review a little bit about how the process works. So each state votes, quote unquote, votes on or decides which innovations they want to adopt. There's 6 other innovations. I forget what the others are. One is nighttime visibility, which I think is also featured today. So the stick committee decides, all right, we're gonna go with EDC-7, TIM, next generation TIM, saving technology for saving lives. And so we recommend, if you want your state to go in that direction, get in touch with your stick committee. It's often chaired by the state DOT. So I get in touch with those folks and say, yeah, you guys are interested, because sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Oftentimes people are doing this stuff and don't necessarily. The EDC coordinators don't necessarily know. The other thing I wanted to mention is, you heard some topics today. You heard all of our topics that we'll be pushing in EDC-7. And just like you heard from today, we have subject matter experts throughout the country that will be working with us. I think Jim mentioned that when we talked about the TIM team. So I just want to mention that we do have the whole idea is proven but yet underutilized. That's the way EDC puts it. And so we do have proven yet underutilized technologies that people can explain that we'll be able to share with you moving forward. So we encourage you to do that. Oh, and we do have a session tomorrow. I think Joe mentioned it, and we have a couple of people on more discussion on advanced warning. Jim, did you have any additional thoughts here?
Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Thanks. Actually, we can't stress enough that your participation in this initiative with Everyday Counts, Next Gen TIM technology for saving lives is something that it makes a difference in the quality of life of all road users, certainly responders, but our team has been working hard with many of you over the years, and we've been honored, just tremendously honored to work with you, and we still have a long way to go. Whether it's the training, that's been mentioned, we're now well over 600,000 responders trained, but we have a goal to train many more. Training isn't a direct focus area of EDC-7, but it's still out there, and we want you to continue to train your responders. But certainly the technologies that we've talked about here today, we are here to help you, get it off the ground, or help you advance from one phase or one stage, if you will, to another, at least one. And if you have 2 of these technologies that you're very interested in, we're here to help you be successful. And if you're successful, we're successful. And like Joe said, we're saving lives together. Back to you, Paul.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to also follow up on was that golden hour. And it dawned on me that many people in the responder community know what that golden hour is. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone else knows what it is. Some may not. So the golden hour, I'm gonna paraphrase here, but basically it's a patient has a much better chance of surviving a severe injury if they get to the hospital within an hour. So they call it the golden hour. Probably didn't identify it exactly correctly, but in case anyone doesn't know what that is. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking one of those issues with post-crash care. We're trying to help with that, if you will, do what we can in the TIM community, with that. And maybe we have some more ideas on that moving forward. That's what, we'll be discussing with you. Many of you, we know the friends and, to our program and participate and work with you as a routine. So maybe that's something we all can have a conversation about moving forward. The other one is I want to call out Mr. Doug Noble in the chat. I don't know that we'll have the ability to poll local agencies, Doug, as you suggested, but we sure could use your help on that, and we know you do. For those of you that don't know, Doug is a very prominent member of many communities, traffic and TIM and ITS, and works for ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers. So we know that Doug and ITE have a tremendous group there at ITE. We've worked very closely with that. So maybe you can help us. So let's talk it out. We'll figure something out. That's what we mean, Doug. So I just didn't want to let you get away before we had asked you about that.
You never usually let me get away, so I figured I'd offer.
Right, since it was your idea and it was a good idea, but yeah. You probably have a better inroads to that than we do. Because certainly we do, but we have to be careful about polling, as you know.
Happy to. Let's schedule a call sometime next week or the week following to figure that out.
Excellent. Thanks, Doug. Does anyone else have any questions? Any other questions? Would it be possible to revisit the poll response? I'd like to understand the industry's current priorities.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I just want to point out real quick, I think it's worth mentioning is the audience behind me in the photograph here, behind me, if you can see it, that group is part of our executive leadership group that has been existed now for over 10 years, and it consists of executive level officials from all the major associations, from law enforcement, state police, sheriffs, the fire service, fire chiefs, volunteer, as well as career, the National Towing Recovery Association, EMS associations, public works, transportation, and a number of others. So if you didn't know, the National TIM program has had the formal support from all these groups now for well over 10 years, and it's a big deal. And just wanted everyone to know, in case you didn't, that it's not just federal highway, it's all the stakeholder disciplines and partners that we work with. Thanks, Paul.
Yes, sir, Jim. Good points. Excellent points. Okay, can you pop up that other poll question at the request that was up? We popped one up and
this poll question 2.
I only know how to pop that one up. I don't know if
okay. No issues.
Okay.
We can follow up, right? We're gonna have this, and we're gonna go over these results actually on our Talking TIM webinar, which is next Wednesday. It's the fourth Wednesday of every month. The National Operations Center of Excellence website will have it there. So we'll be reviewing a lot of the activities today, the participation, the the poll questions, the results, and some further discussions. Other topics next week will be on an after-action review for a multi-vehicle fire, including electric vehicle battery fires on a vehicle carrier. And and then some research that we just completed on move over compliance that Congress asked us to look at, and technologies for saving for responder safety. Sort of related to these technologies today, but they're different. There was different research results. So we will be sharing that on next Wednesday. So please join us and register at the National Operations Center of Excellence website, NOCO for short. Okay, we got another attendee to the webinar. Great. All right. If we don't have anything else, please feel free to join us to chat at 3:45. Take a break. With that,
do you have our contact, Paul? I'm sorry. Do we have a contact slide?
Yeah, next one.
There we go. Thank you.
Oh, we don't want anyone to call us or email us, do we, Jim?
Of course we do.
I'm glad you caught that. Yeah, we're all anxious to help. We're all anxious to engage with you. So, Jim, I'm glad you caught that. Yeah.
Okay, like Paul said, join us at 3:45 if you can. And thank you. Stay safe, and we look forward to working with you.
Yeah. And if you need to reach out to us, go to Joe first.
Thanks, Paul. Always looking.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
I know.